Hi, so we're doing a live feed right now of Punished for Protecting. We're also doing a Facebook blog. This is actually an adult child. Her story after 22 years of being alienated from her dad based on a false allegation. I had to put this story out today for so many reasons. For so many of you that comprehend what's been happening and how parents have been alienated and children have been alienated from their parents. But this story is so powerful and so strong. This story actually started out in North Carolina and continues till this day, 22 years later, in Ulster County, New York. 22 years. Now, we all know that 1 second of a bad court decision is too much for any family. Multiple and high volumes, millions of parents out there, and even more, triple millions of children out there are being abused by our family courts and child predator services all over our nation. We continue to expose these stories to inform you, the viewers, those of you that are aware and those of you that are not aware, to bring further public awareness to what is happening in our country and why this is so bad and so wrong for our nation, for the health and welfare of our nation. Human rights, civil rights, parental rights, children's rights. So now, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn is going to tell her story. I'm going to welcome everybody to Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn, how are you today?
Doing okay. How are you?
I don't see you yet. I'm just a moment. I'm going to just put this over until I get you a view of you. Okay. Kaitlyn, before I put this camera over to you, because it actually is activated by your voice, I need you to just kind of tell us a little bit about, what you came to learn after the false allegation, and what was the allegation against your dad, if you can get into that. Actually, I need you to speak louder because we're not speaking, and into the camera. Thank you.
Okay. Ever since I can remember, I grew up being told that my dad molested me, and that was why I could not live with my parents. I didn't find out until I was 20 years old, or 21 really, and pregnant with my own child, that there was a possibility that wasn't true. And after living your whole life fearing and resenting your own dad when everything you ever needed was a dad, it's a hard pill to swallow to suddenly find out there's a possibility that could have been wrong and pointless all along.
Kaitlyn, is there a possible way you can speak up a little louder? I'm so sorry. We are hearing you, but it's very faint.
Can you hear me better now? The most I can do is
move
my camera towards my face.
That sounds better. Maybe speak into the phone. I have my volume all the way up.
Does this help?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
so it took 21 years for you to realize that this was possibly a false allegation against your father.
Yeah, and it wasn't up until about 3 or 4 months ago when I saw paperwork about things that showed me that it's not the case. And that, along with my memories, I can't ever remember anything bad about my dad. I can remember things with another man, having me trapped in a room with him and getting down to his underwear. I can remember that. I can remember what the inside of the house that I first lived in looked like. I can remember all kinds of mundane details from that age that I feel like normally people can't.
So you recall another man, abuse from another man, but definitely not your dad, who has unfortunately taken the brunt of something that someone else did. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to hear it from you.
I don't remember the act itself. I can just remember being alone with him in a room and he started taking his clothes off, and I can remember freaking out and thinking, not again, not again. And I tried to get out, and the door was locked, and I started screaming and crying and beating on the door, and somebody fortunately stepped in and prevented it that time. So
thank God. Thank God. Now you don't have to say it at this point in time, but do you know who that person is?
I know him as Tommy Hopper.
Okay, you know his name and everything. Okay, you do know. Okay, so you know clearly. And then your dad is the one that ended up getting the brunt of this. And this man, your dad has suffered this for 22 years. And it's not only suffered it himself, but now his new family, his wife, has suffered it tremendously. I know very much because I'm an advocate for her. And I've had to visit her in jail for doing nothing. A homeschool mom, a wonderful mother, a wonderful human being. And so because I'm very closely tied into advocating for this particular case here in Ulster County, New York. So how and I don't want to bring up anything, sad or anything for you, and I embrace you, and I just, I know it's a hard question for me to even have to ask you, but how does this make you feel, losing 22 years of your father?
It's not an easy pill to swallow. It never has been. I can think growing up of all the times I wanted to be able to crawl up in somebody's lap and be treated like their little girl that I couldn't, and I can't get that time back. And now my baby sister is looking at having to miss out on that stuff too, and I don't want that for her.
Right, I understand, because your baby sister's suffering right now because of this ridiculous decision that was made 22 years ago, and it now continues from a North Carolina court to now an upstate Ulster County, New York court. And the abuse is, so negligent to your entire family, all because of one false chip has caused the dominoes effect 22 years later and is affecting your entire family. Okay? And they're not remedying.
I can only imagine how differently my life was gone. I feel like I'd be so much more functional. You still see me?
Yep, keep going. I do need you to speak up a little bit, though. I hate to tell you, you got to just raise your volume like you're an Italian woman.
I don't know. I ended up being raised by a family I wasn't really related to, other than my biological grandfather. He was home much, and it led to me getting moved around and around and around and around, and
yeah.
A lot of things you're supposed to learn growing up, even if you've already started to learn them, deteriorate when your surroundings are constantly changing.
Right, they're constantly compromised, and you've been uprooted so many times, and you've not had the stability and the consistency of a loving family, all because a judge rendered a horrible decision. And what angers me the most is that it's still going on. That decision is still happening in 22 years later, guys. 22 years later.
It's still impacting him and his family. It still impacts me in the sense that sometimes parenting is hard for everybody, but I feel like I could be doing a lot more as an adult and as a mother if I had a foundation.
Right.
Firmer.
I want to commend you for coming forth with this, because your story is going to help millions of people, and especially children and adult children, because you're actually their voice right now. What you're doing is their voice, and it's a blessing to all of us, and I bless you for staying and coming forward. It's a miracle what you're doing right now, literally, and I'm so thankful to be able to have this platform to be able to interview you and to be able to have America watching and hearing this, because this is the problem. This is exactly what's happening. These court decisions and these child protective services that are not protecting our kids, it's not just a decision that they make one day. It's a decision that goes on, and it actually goes into the generations, and it's affecting not just our nation, but as we all know, it's affecting us globally. So what you're doing right now is so powerful, and I just so commend you for what you're doing right now, and I can't thank you enough. And I just pray that your whole family will get the healing that only God can bring you guys, and also the restoration to your family that you also deserve. Because 22 years, 2 seconds is too long, but 22 years is just unbelievably sad. And because I know this story very well, I couldn't wait to get you on here. So now I'm glad that you've actually restored your relationship with your dad. Do you want to tell everybody about that?
It's really nice. It's different. I went so long without having one and just kind of having to accept the fact that I wasn't going to, that I was never going to have somebody to walk me down the aisle one day. I got somebody now calling me princess, baby girl, and telling me good morning and good night. At first I didn't know what to think of it. It was weird. That kind of uncomfortable because I didn't know how to handle it. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to talk to him. I finally have a parent that I have things in common with, and it's just nice. The best way I can put it.
Well, you are a princess, and we all see you as a princess. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with the people that are watching? I know that a lot of kids are going to be watching you, of all ages, that have been writing me, and you know, you're actually going to help them to not be afraid to tell their stories and so on. Is there anything you would like to share with them? Because you've been through it.
I had it. I lost it. I really hope that this helps make a difference so that other kids don't have to lose their daddies if it's not necessary. And that your voice does matter and it can make a difference. Don't let somebody try to bully you into saying anything other than what your heart feels is right. Because it's always worth having daddy. You can't get enough.
Thank you, sweetheart. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we interview your dad now?
That's okay.
I'm
good. That's okay. Thank you, though.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much, and you're getting sent a lot of love and hearts, and people are saying they love you, and we just thank you. We thank you. You've just been a part of a miracle right here, and we're just blessed to have. And I'm really touched myself right now because I know your story and your family. And I just thank God for being able to do this. So I'm going to take this over now to, and thank you so much, Kaitlyn. Thank you. I'm going to take this over right now to a video, guys. This is actually Assemblyman Cahill. This is actually the Rights of a Few Productions, and I actually got on here a couple years ago and met this family through this blog talk radio station and heard their story, and I've been standing with them since 2014, and it's gotten worse. It's actually gotten worse instead of better, and so forgive me because these tears are, I'm very close to a lot of these families, and it hurts what these people are doing to our families, and this is why I do this. But I want you to hear this from his own blog talk radio, guys. So here we go. If I can just get this to play a little bit for you, and hope that the volume is up.
I find it interesting that Assemblymember Cahill from New York says he puts women and families first. Well, he received an email from a former state trooper and an investigator where he sent a request for formal response, and he put my article up in the emails that stand up for your rights to be a family against DSS-CPS in the family court. He sent this email on June 9, 2015 at 4:57 in the morning. Assemblyman Cahill did receive the email, but it goes to state, Assemblyman Cahill, sir, how can a family protect themselves from the untruths of DSS investigators looking for praise of their respected supervisors, managers, and alike? For example, empowered county executives. Kindly listen to the following. Is this really happening? And he put the link in the email. They put on a show for the public. Now, I'm not going to say that Assemblyman Cahill doesn't care, but I have to raise the question, And that question is, how does CPS get away with filing false neglect petitions? I'm going to play a recording now where my former public defender admitted that the neglect petition in my case was illegal. And the reason why it was illegal is their allegations were false. As defending me, if there is a criminal act that's been done, that's part of the defense.
Right. I have to get their opinion as to whether it's a criminal act. I think they would agree with you if it was a clear criminal act.
Well, against my wife, it is.
Against your wife, it is, yes.
So, now that you see and hear what's going on, briefly, it raises the question of the motives of the courts and the legislature. Why is it when these actions are brought to their attention, they just ignore it? They don't do anything about it.
No, they don't.
This is just amazing how it's just ignored, and who suffers? The children and the families. So, I just want everybody to think about this, because this is being done to all of us, no matter what race, religion, or political affiliation you are. This is being done to all of us.
Thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to go to your dad. I can find him here. Hold on a second. Let's make this bigger. Okay. So now I'm going to have Brian himself. Brian, go right ahead and start telling your story and as to why we're at where we are today in 2017.
Now, before I get into that video,
okay,
my first conversation was with her boyfriend. And kind of a little emotional here.
We all are, Brian.
When me and him talked, I had no idea. My dad called me and says, "Do you know such and such guy?" And I said, "No, should I?" No, but they want to know about, because I study law, so they want to. They're looking at some stuff you're looking into. I said, well, give them my phone number. And Dad called me back and said, oh, that's Kaitlyn's boyfriend. I said, okay, fine. Give him my phone number. So me and him talked for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And when it was over with, he never once passed judgment. He never said anything negative. He said, you know, I think there's a young lady sitting here that would like to talk to you. And I said, tell my daughter I've always been there. And the first thing she told me was, Dad, why can't I remember? And she told me, she said, all I remember with you is good things. She remembered how we used to play on the floor with her dolls. And how I would always tell her to go clean her room before she went out and played, and she never remembered under her bed. She was only 3. And I'd say, get under your bed and then go play, you know. And she remembered all the things we used to do, but with Tommy's the only thing bad. I've sent you a copy of that 1995 DSS report. My daughter's got it, my wife's got it. My ex-wife's got it. My dad's got it. Shoot, Ulster County has it.
Mm-hmm.
Where in 1994, I took my daughter to be examined because I thought she was being molested by Tommy. And the examination come back clean. Dr. Lawless examined my daughter twice. First time when I did it, when I took her. And then the second time, when DSS in North Carolina came after me, in that report they were told, you're looking at the wrong guy. You need to be looking at Tommy. You need to be looking at these other people. He didn't do nothing. They never once looked. And Tommy was horrible. I can tell you things that I do know, like I found out in 1996, and because I am a Christian, it took me 2 years of crying and praying for God to help me forgive him. But this was back then. I drank, and I found out the next morning that they had drugged one of my drinks. And me and my ex-wife had gotten a fight, so she had her mom leave. Not a physical fight, a verbal fight. So she had her mom take her somewhere. And I found out before her mom died, because her mom finally came clean, that man raped me. And then to find my daughter remembers how helpless it makes you feel, that you couldn't protect your daughter. And then on top of that, you go to prison for something you didn't do. And now, New York, Ulster County, made up the neglect petition and has tore my family. And I can't protect my wife. I can't protect my daughter. That was Michael Masseri. He just mysteriously died in June.
Yes, he did. Mysteriously.
My former public defender admitted the neglect petitions against my wife were illegal. And why were they illegal? Because I played to him the audio recording I have that shows that they lied on the neglect petitions, and they have been able to get away with this now for 5.5 years.
That's right. I'm reconnecting. Okay, it went off for a second there. Brian, can you just tell them right now you have a younger son? How old is your younger daughter?
I haven't been able to see in 5 years.
She's a 7-year-old daughter who he has not been able to see in 5 years. I just want to repeat it because my audio went out for a second. They have a 7-year-old daughter. Now, both he and his wife, they arrested his wife. I went to visit her in jail. This poor woman, okay, how long was it there? I had to go visit her a couple times. I don't want to lose it. Okay, so how long was she in jail, Brian?
She was in jail for about 4 months.
4 months. This is a homeschool mom, and I tell you, an innocent woman, you have no idea. Okay, this is what goes on in Ulster County, New York. This is what goes on here.
She was in jail from roughly March 23rd to July 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They have forced my daughter at the age of 1, 2.5, the second time at the age of 7.
This is a 7-year-old.
To go through a medical exam for sexual abuse, okay, we have the recording of the first medical exam. The doctor that did the exam was pissed because there was never an actual allegation of abuse.
That's right.
Ulster County's whole argument was me and my wife neglected our children because we married, conceived a child, and lived in a home together while I was a truck driver providing for my family, which I still do to this day, even though my family is not allowed to live together. Now, let's talk about how Ulster County...
Well, hold on a minute. Hold on a second, Brian. I want to say something about that. I want to talk about that a minute. I want to emphasize that. I want to emphasize the hurt and pain that you guys see here, the abuse to this family, the abuse to this dad. He has had one daughter without one daughter for 22 years, and now another daughter. Imagine just and you guys all know, you guys who have been alienated from your children and children who have been alienated from you based on false nonsense that we see every day, yet they place them with, and you guys also know, you've seen me, we're fighting right now like crazy for Lisa Knight and her daughter, who is with a registered sex offender, who is legitimately a sex offender, yet that child is with that father and is given to him sole custody, unfettered access, while the mother has been fighting for years for her. Okay? But here you've got somebody, do you see how incredibly crazy this is? Okay? Now this man is suffering not the loss of one child, but now 2, and now his current wife has to suffer the loss of that child too. Do you see how the logarithmic effect...
3 children.
3 children, I'm sorry.
Because I have my oldest daughter.
Right.
Has a brother.
That's right.
My son and my daughter.
Right.
They lived without me.
That's right.
And now I've got a daughter that's going to go through the same thing because she asks New York, why can't Daddy come home?
Right. That's right, every day. Yeah.
But
instead of fixing and repairing the damages that they do, they just compound it and make it worse.
That's right, because look, there was never an allegation of neglect or abuse. Their only argument on neglect, the petition actually was neglect. But when they got up in the court, they had to admit, and we have the testimony, we have the transcripts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, that the house was clean, no marks and no bruises on the children or child.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few boxes here and there.
No proof of sexual abuse at all.
No, nothing.
And you heard it live from the daughters.
Yeah, and my daughter every so often will ask that question: why can't Daddy come home? Why will you not let my daddy come home? Just whatever she's asked in the past. But she is now 7. Do you know they had the gall to, without a judge's order, to come across state lines for well over a year? Now, they say we have a New York order, but that don't hold water in Pennsylvania.
That's right.
You know what made them finally go to Pennsylvania and get permission to come across state lines was when we went to jail, and I didn't come to New York.
Mm-hmm.
I turned myself in North Carolina because why? I ain't done nothing. I ain't coming to New York.
Right. No.
Because why? None of us have done anything wrong. I have sat and provided for my family in spite of all this. Most men would have took off and ran and said, I ain't got time for this. I'm not that way. I made a vow.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter Kaitlyn, she is my princess. She'll always be my baby girl, because the last time I got to raise her, she was 3.
Yeah. I know the feeling. We all know the feeling. Not as long as you, though.
And my wife, my present wife, I love her. I do. That's why I fight like I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to stop fighting these people, because they lie on decent families.
Yes, they do.
Who remembers Mason the Cosmo, that DSS could have done something to prevent his death and chose not to? But when you got, albeit not perfect families, but decent families, because ain't no parent that ever watches this video can ever attest to being perfect. There's only one man that was perfect, and he walked on water.
That's right.
So, DSS is out of control.
Yes, they are. And so is family court.
What people don't understand is they get paid money to do this stuff. And until you address the money issue under Title 4E and Title 4D under the Social Security Act, things are not ever going to change, because the states are going to continue to rip families apart because they get paid. And don't make me prove this, because I can.
Everybody that's watching, you're speaking to the choir.
I know. As long as they're paying between $5,000 and $10,000 per child just to put them in foster care, we're not talking about the monthly stipends. You're talking about the states getting billions of dollars. And I bet you 10 to 1, if you go look through the 1099 OID process and the 1040A process that these judges are supposed to file to the IRS, because they have to file with the IRS because they get paid on these cases. I question Ulster County on whether or not they filed their paperwork rights. See, I can tell you right now, if you go to Dun & Bradstreet, you'd find out that, and you get the report from Dun & Bradstreet, who is your corporate credit reporting agency, and if you was to look up Ulster County and Department of Social Services and Ulster County Family Court, you'd find out they are businesses.
That's right.
And they all are part of the county executor. When that state trooper, when he said empowered county executives, he was talking about Michael Hines. Because Michael Hines is very well aware of my case. And I can tell Ulster County, they have liquid assets of roughly $322 billion. And you want to know why you're taxed to death when they have all this money that they report on their, but the media don't touch it. So I know I'm going to touch a nerve today. But you've attacked my family. You allow these departments to molest my child and abuse my wife. And you think I'm not going to be pissed and that I'm not going to speak out? Yes, I'm going to speak out. You've already abused my children. I'm a pissed off dad.
And you have every right to be. You have every right to be.
I don't know if my daughter's still there, got anything she wants to say, but I need to calm down.
She is, and I have to start to get to that wrapping up so I can get this aired on TV for all the stations and the new ones that we're picking up. Let me just see if she wants to say anything final before we close here. Did you want to say anything else, Kaitlyn, or?
To add to that?
I can't hear ya.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay.
A lot of that is above my knowledge. I'm just happy to have my cat back in my life.
I love you, Princess.
I love you.
Well, that's a beautiful way to end that. All right. Well, God bless you guys so much, and thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to continue to keep reporting these, and we're growing even more. We're getting more and more states as well. And we have more and more kids that I've got some pre-recorded and some more lives that are coming on. So, keep following my page, and please keep looking for, when we have meetings and stuff, we're trying to do at least one a week, one every 2 weeks for all of you to join, so we can continue to do this. All right. Thank you all. Thank you guys for sharing your story. These judges and these child protective services caseworkers and all these people that are doing these things, you're going to answer to God. I mean, you're going to answer to us too, though. You're going to answer to us, we the people, because we've had enough. So thank you, everybody. If anybody would like to be on the show, please go to my website at www.punishbeingAparent.com and fill out the form and send it in. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.